The exiles. Their eyes were fire, and the breath flamed out the witches' mouths as they bent to probe the cauldron with greasy stick and bony finger. When shall we three meet again, in thunder, lightning, or in rain? They danced drunkenly on the shore of an empty sea, fouling the air with their three tongues and burning it with their cat's eyes malevolently a-glitter. Round about the cauldron go, in the poisoned entrails throw, double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. They paused and cast a glance about. Where's the crystal? Where's the needles? Here. Good. Is the yellow wax thickened? Yes. Pour it in the iron mold. Is the wax figure done? They shaped it like molasses a-drip on their green hands. Shove the needle through the heart. The crystal, fetch it from the tarot bag. Dust it off, have a look. They bent to the crystal, their faces white. A rock... See. A rocket ship moved through space from the planet Earth to the planet Mars. On the rocket ship, men were dying. The captain raised his head tiredly. We'll have to use the morphine. But captain, you see yourself this man's condition. The captain lifted the wool blanket, and the man, restrained beneath the wet sheet, moved and groaned. The air was full of sulphurous thunder. I saw it. The man opened his eyes and stared at the port where there were only black spaces, reeling stars. Earth far removed, the planet Mars, rising large and red. I saw it, a bat, a huge thing, a bat with a man's face, spread over the front port, fluttering and fluttering and fluttering and fluttering. Pulse? Asked the captain. The orderly measured it. 130. He can't go on with that. Use the morphine. Come along, Smith. They moved away. Suddenly the floor plates were laced with bone and white skulls that screamed. The captain did not dare look down, and over the screaming he said, Is this where Percy is? Turning in at a hatch, a white-smocked surgeon stepped away from a body. I just don't understand it. How did Percy die? We don't know, Captain. It wasn't his heart, his brain, or shock. He just died. The captain felt the doctor's wrist, which changed to a hissing snake, and bit him. The captain did not flinch. Take care of yourself. You will pulse, too. The doctor nodded. Percy complained of pains, needles, he said, in his wrists and legs. Said he felt like wax, melting. He fell. I helped him up. He cried like a child. Said he had a silver needle in his heart. He died. Here he is. We can repeat the autopsy for you. Everything's physically normal. That's impossible. He died of something. The captain walked to a port. He smelled of menthol and iodine and green soap on his polished and manicured hands. His white teeth were dentrified, and his ears scoured to a pinkness, as were his cheeks. The uniform was the color of new salt, and his boots were black mirrors shining below him. His crisp, crew-cut hair smelled of sharp alcohol. Even his breath was sharp and new and clean. There was no spot to him. He was a fresh instrument, honed and ready, still hot from the surgeon's oven. The men with him were from the same mold. One expected a huge brass keys, spiraling slowly from their backs. They were expensive, talented, well-oiled toys, obedient and quick. The captain watched the planet Mars grow very large in space. We'll be landing in an hour on that darn place. Smith, did you see any bats or have other nightmares? Yes, sir. The month before our rocket took off from New York, sir. White rats biting my neck, drinking my blood. I didn't tell. I was afraid you wouldn't let me come on this trip. Never mind, sighed the captain. I have dreams, too. In all of my 50 years, I never had a dream until that week before we took off from Earth. And then every night I dreamed I was a white wolf, caught on a snowy hill, shot with a silver bullet, buried with a stake in my heart. He moved his head toward Mars. Do you think, Smith, they know we're coming? We don't know if they are Martian people, sir. Don't we? They began fighting us off 8 weeks ago before he started. They've killed Percy and Reynolds now. Yesterday, they made Grenville go blind. How? I don't know. Bats? Needles? Dreams? Men dying for no reason? I'd call it witchcraft in another day. But this is the year 2120, Smith. We're rational men. This all can't be happening. But it is. Whoever they are, with their needles and their bats, they'll try to finish us all. He swung about. Smith, fetch those books from my file. I want them when we land. 200 books were piled on the rocket deck. Thank you, Smith. Have you glanced at them? Think I'm insane? Perhaps. It's a crazy hunch. At last moment, I ordered these books from the Historical Museum because of my dreams. 20 nights I was stabbed, butchered, a screaming bat pinned to my surgical mat, a thing rotting underground in a black box, bad, wicked dreams. Our whole crew dreamed of witch things and were things, vampires and phantoms. Things I couldn't know anything about. Why? Because books on such ghastly subjects were destroyed a century ago. By law, forbidden for anyone to own the grisly volumes. These books you see here are the last copies kept for historical purposes in the locked museum vaults. Smith bent to read the dusty titles. Tales of Mystery and Imagination by Edgar Allan Poe, Dracula by Bram Stoker, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, Rappaccini's Daughter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, An Occurrence of Owl Creek Bridge by Ambrose Bierce, Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, The Willows by Algernon Blackwood, The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum, The Weird Shadow over Innismouth by H.P. Lovecraft, and more. Books by Walter Delamare, Wakefield, Harvey, Wells, Asquith, Huxley, all forbidden authors, all burned in the same year that Halloween was outlawed, Christmas was banned. But, sir, what good are these to us on the rocket? I don't know, sighed the captain, yet. The three hags lifted the crystal where the captain's image flickered, his tiny voice tinkling out of the glass. I don't know, sighed the captain, yet. The three witches glared readily into one another's faces. We haven't much time, said one. Better warn them in the city. They'll want to know about the books. It doesn't look good, that fool of a captain. In an hour they'll land their rocket. The three hags shuddered and blinked up at the Emerald City by the edge of the dry Martian sea. In its highest window a small man held a blood-red drape aside. He watched the wastelands where the three witches fed their cauldron and shaped their waxes. Farther along, 10,000 other blue fires and laurel incenses, black tobacco smokes and fir weeds, cinnamons and bone dusts rose soft as moths through the Martian night. The man counted the angry magical fires. Then as the three witches stared, he turned. The crimson drape, released, fell, causing the distant portal to wink like a yellow eye. Mr. Edgar Allan Poe stood in the tower window, a faint vapor of spirits upon his breath. Hecate's friends are busy tonight, he said, seeing the witches far below. A voice behind him said, I saw Will Shakespeare at the shore earlier, whipping them on. All along the sea Shakespeare's army alone, tonight, numbers thousands. The three witches, Oberon, Hamlet's father, Puck, all of them, thousands. Good Lord, a regular sea of people. Good, William. Poe turned. He let the crimson drape fall shut. He stood for a moment to observe the raw stone room, the black timbered table, the candle flame, the other man, Mr. Ambrose Bierce, sitting very idly there, lighting matches and watching them burn down, whistling under his breath, now and then laughing to himself. We'll have to tell Mr. Dickens now, said Mr. Poe. We've put it off too long. It's a matter of hours. Will you go down to his home with me, Bierce? Bierce glanced up merrily. I've just been thinking what'll happen to us if we can't kill the rocket men off, frighten them away. Then we'll have to leave, of course. We'll go on to Jupiter, and when they come to Jupiter, we'll go on to Saturn. And when they come to Saturn, we'll go to Uranus or Neptune, and then on out to Pluto. Where then? Mr. Poe's face was weary. There were fire coals remaining, fading in his eyes, a sad wildness in the way he talked, and a uselessness of his hands and the way his hair fell lanky over his amazing white brow. He was like a Satan of some lost dark cause, a general arrived from a derelict invasion. His silky, soft black mustache was worn away by his musing lips. He was so small his brow seemed to float vast and phosphorescent by itself in the dark room. We have the advantages of superior forms of travel, he said. We can always hope for one another of their atomic wars. Dissolution, the dark ages come again, the return of superstition. We could go back, then, to Earth, all of us, in one night. Mr. Poe's black eyes brooded under his round and luminant brow. He gazed at the ceiling. So they're coming to ruin this world, too? They won't leave anything undefiled, will they? Does a wolf pack stop until it's killed its prey and eaten the guts? It should be quite a war. I shall sit on the sidelines and be the scorekeeper, so my earthmen boiled in oil, and so many misfound and bottles burnt. So many Earthmen stabbed with needles, so many Red Deaths put to flight by a battery of hypodermic syringes. Ha! Poe swayed angrily, faintly drunk with wine. What did we do? Be with us, Pierce, in the name of God. Did we have a fair trial before a company of literary critics? No, our books were plucked up by neat, sterile surgeons' pliers and flung into vats to boil, to be killed of all their mortuary germs. Darn them all. I find our situation amusing, said Pierce. They were interpreted by a hysterical shout from the tower stair. Mr. Poe, Mr. Pierce, yes, yes, we're coming. Poe and Pierce descended to find a man gasping against the stone passage wall. Have you heard the news? He cried immediately, clawing at them like a man about to fall over a cliff. In an hour they'll land. They're bringing books with them, old books, the witches said. What are you doing in that tower at a time like this? Why aren't you acting? Poe said, We're doing everything we can, Blackwood. You're new to all this. Come on, we're going to Mr. Charles Dickens' place to contemplate our doom, our black doom, said Mr. Pierce with a wink. They moved down the echoing throats of the castle, level after dim green level, down to the mustiness and decay and spiders and dreamlike webbing. Don't worry, said Poe, his brow like a huge white lamp before them, descending, sinking. All along the Dead Sea tonight I've called the others, your friends and mine, Blackwood, Pierce. They're all there. The animals and the old women and the tall men and the sharp white teeth. The traps are waiting, the pits, yes, and the pendulums, the Red Death. Here he laughed quietly. Yes, even the Red Death. I never thought the time would come when a thing like the Red Death would actually be. But they asked for it, and they shall have it. But are we strong enough? Wondered Blackwood. How strong is strong? They won't be prepared for us, at least. They haven't the imagination, those clean young rocket men with their antiseptic bloomers and fishbowl helmets, with their new religion. About their necks hung gold-chained scalpels, upon their heads a diadem of microscopes, and their holy fingers steaming incense urns, which in reality are only germicidal ovens for steaming out superstition. The names of Poe, Pierce, Hawthorne, Blackwood, blasphemy to their clean lips. Outside the castle they advanced through watery space, a turn that was not a tarn, which misted before them like a stuff of nightmares, the air filled with winged sounds, and a whirring motion winded in blackness. Voices changed, figures swayed at campfires. Mr. Poe watched the needles knitting in the firelight. Knitting pain and misery, knitting wickedness into wax marionettes, clay puppets, the cauldron smells, and wild garlic and cayenne and saffron. His stopped to fill the night with equal pungency. Get on with it, said Poe. I'll be back. All down the empty seashore, black figures spindled and waned, grew up and blew into black smoke on the sky. Bells rang in mountain towers, and licorice ravens spilled out with the bronze sounds and spun away to ashes. Over a lonely moor and into a small valley, Poe and Pierce hurried, found themselves quite suddenly on the cobbled street in cold, bleak, biting weather, with people stomping up and down stony courtyards to warm their feet, foggy withal, and candles flaring in the windows of offices and shops, where hung the Yuletide turkeys. At a distance, some boys, all bundled up, snorting their pale breaths on the wintry air, were trilling God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, while the immense tones of a great clock continuously sounded midnight. Children dashed by from the bakers with diners all asteam in their grubby fists on trays and under silver bowls. At a sign which read Scrooge, Marley, and Dickens, Poe gave the Marley-faced knocker a rap, and from within, as the door popped open a few inches, a sudden gust of music almost swept them into a dance, and there beyond the shoulder of the man who was sticking a trim goatee and mustaches at them was Mr. Fezziwig, clapping his hands, and Miss Fezziwig, one vast substantial smile, dancing and colliding with other merrymakers, while the fiddle chirped in laughter about a table like chandelier crystals given a sudden push of wind. The large table was heaped with brawn and turkey and holly and geese, and mince pies, suckling pigs, wreaths of sausages, oranges, and apples, and there was Bob Cratchit, and Little Dorrit, and Tiny Tim, and Mr. Fagin himself, and a man who looked as if it might be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato. Who else but Mr. Marley, chains and all, while the wine poured and the brown turkeys did their excellent best to steam. What do you want? Demanded Mr. Charles Dickens. We've come to plead with you again, Charles. We need your help, said Poe. Help? Do you think I would help you against those good men coming in the rocket? I don't belong there anyway. My books were burned by mistake. I'm no supernaturalist, no writer of horrors and terrors like you, Poe, Bierce, or the others. I have nothing to do with you terrible people. You are a persuasive talker, reasoned Poe. You could go to meet the rocket men, lull them, lull their suspicions, and then Then we would take care of them. Mr. Dickens eyed the folds of the black cape which hid Poe's hands. From it, smiling, Poe drew forth a black cat for one of our visitors, and for the others, Poe smiled again, well pleased. The premature burial? You are a grim man, Mr. Poe. I am frightened and an angry man. I am a god, Mr. Dickens, even as you are a god, even as we are all gods, and our inventions, our people, if you wish, have not only been threatened, but banished and burned, torn up and censored, ruined and done away with. The worlds we created are falling into ruin. Even gods must fight. So, Mr. Dickens tilted his head, impatient to return to the party, the music, the food. Perhaps you can explain why we are here? How did we come here? War begets war, destruction begets destruction, on Earth a century ago. In the year 2020 they outlawed our books. Oh, what a horrible thing to destroy our literary creations that way. It summoned us out of what? Death? The beyond? I don't like abstract things. I don't know. I only know that our worlds and our creations called us and we tried to save them, and the only saving thing we could do was wait out the century here on Mars, hoping Earth might overweight itself with these scientists and their doubtings. But now they're coming to clean us out of here and our dark things. And all the alchemists, witches, vampires, and weird things that one by one retreated across space as science made inroads through every country on Earth, and finally left no alternative at all but exodus. You must help us. You have a good speaking manner. We need you. I repeat, I am not of you. I don't approve of you. And the others, cried Dickens angrily. I was no player with witches and vampires and midnight things. What of a Christmas carol? Ridiculous. One story. Oh, I wrote a few others about ghosts, perhaps, but what of that? My basic works had none of that nonsense. Mistaken or not, they grouped you with us. They destroyed your books, your worlds, too. You must hate them, Mr. Dickens. I admit they are stupid and rude, but that is all. Good day. Let Mr. Marley come at least. No. The door slammed. As Poe turned away down the street, skimming over the frosty ground, the coachman playing a lively air on a bugle, came a great coach out of which, cherry red, laughing and singing, piled the Pickwickins, banging on the door, shouting Merry Christmas good and loud when the door was opened by the fat boy. Mr. Poe hurried along the midnight shore of the dry sea. By fires and smoke he hesitated to shout orders, check the bubbling cauldrons, the poisons and the chalked pentagrams. Good, he said, and ran on. Fine, he shouted, and ran again. People joined him and ran with him. Here were Mr. Coppard and Mr. Machin running with him now, and there were hating serpents and angry demons and fiery bronze dragons and spitting vipers and trembling witches, like the barbs and nettles and thorns, all the vile flotsam and jetsam of the retreating sea of imagination left on the melancholy shore, whining and frothing and spitting. Mr. Machin stopped. He sat like the child on the cold sand. He began to sob. They tried to soothe him, but he would not listen. I just thought, he said, what happens to us on the day when the last copies of our books are destroyed? The air whirled. Don't speak of it. You must, wailed Mr. Machin. Now, as the rocket comes down, you, Mr. Poe, you, Coppard, you, Bierce, all of you grow faint, like wood smoke, blowing away, your faces melt. Death, real death for all of us. We exist only through Earth's sufferance. If a final edict tonight destroyed our last few works, we'd be like lights put out. Coppard brooded gently. I wonder who I am. In what earth mind tonight do I exist? In some African hut, some hermit reading my tales? Is he the lonely candle in the wind of time and science, the flickering orb sustaining me here in rebellious exile? Is it him? Or some boy in a discarded attic, finding me, only just in time? Oh, last night I felt ill to the marrows of time. For there is a body of the soul as well as a body of the body, and this soul body ached in all of its glowing parts, and last night I felt myself a candle guttering, when suddenly I sprang up, given new light, as some child sneezing with dust, in some yellow garret on earth once more found a worn, time-specked copy of me, and so I'm given a short respite. A door banged wide in a little hut by the shore. A thin, short man, with flesh hanging from him in folds, stepped out, and paying no attention to the others, sat down and stared into his clenched fists. There's the one I'm sorry for, whispered Blackwood. Look at him, dying away. He was once more real than we, who are men. They took him, a skeleton thought, and clothed him in centuries of pink flesh and snow beard, and red velvet suit and black boot, made him reindeers, tinsel, holly, and after centuries of manufacturing him, they drowned him in a vat of Lysol, you might say. The men were silent. What must it be on earth, wondered Poe, without Christmas, no hot chestnuts, no tree, no ornaments or drums or candles, nothing. Nothing but the snow and wind and the lonely, factual people. They all looked at the thin little old man with the scraggly beard and the faded red velvet suit. Have you heard his story? I can imagine it. The glitter-eyed psychiatrist, the clever sociologist, the resentful, foul-mouthed educationalist, the antiseptic parents, the regrettable situation, said Bierce, smiling. For the Yuletide merchants who, toward the last there, as I recall, were beginning to put up holly and sing Noel the day before Halloween. With any luck at all this year, they might have started on Labor Day. Bierce did not continue. He fell forward with a sigh. As he lay upon the ground, he had time to say only how interesting, and then as they all watched horrified, his body burned into a blue dust and charred bone, the ashes of which fled through the air in black tatters. Bierce! Bierce! Gone! His last book gone. Someone on earth just now burned it. God rest him, nothing left of him now. For what are we but books? And when those are gone, nothing's to be seen. A rushing sound filled the sky. They cried out, terrified, and looked up. In the sky, dazzling as it was sizzling fire clouds, was the rocket. Around the men on the seashore, lanterns bobbed. There was a squealing and a bubbling and an odor of cooked spells. Candle-light pumpkins lifted into the cold, clear air. Then fingers clenched into fists, and a witch screamed for her withered mouth. Ship, ship, break, fall! Ship, ship, burn all! Crack, flake, shake, melt! Mummy dust, cat pelt! Time to go, murmured Blackwood. On to Jupiter, to Saturn, or Pluto. Run away, shouted Poe in the wind. Never! I'm a tired old man. Poe gazed into the old man's face and believed him. He climbed atop a huge boulder and faced the 10,000 gray shadows and green lights and yellow eyes on the hissing wind. The powders, he shouted, a thick, hot smell of bitter almond, civet, cumin, wormseed, and orris. The rocket came down, steadily down, with a shriek of a darned spirit. Poe raged at it. He flung his fists up, and the orchestra of heat and smell and hatred answered in symphony. Like stripped tree fragments, bats flew upward. Burning hearts, flung like missiles, burst in bloody fireworks on the singed air. Down, down, relentlessly down, like a pendulum, the rocket came, and Poe howled furiously and shrank back with every sweep and sweep of the rocket, cutting and riveting the air. All the Dead Sea seemed a pit in which, trapped, they waited the sinking of the dread machinery, the glistening axe. They were people under the avalanche. The snakes, screamed Poe, and luminous serpentines of undulant green hurtled toward the rocket, but it came down, a sweep, a fire, a motion, and it lay panting out of exhaustions of red plumage on the sand a mile away. At it, shrieked Poe. The plan's changed. Only one chance. Run at it, at it. Drown them with our bodies, kill them. And as if he had commanded a violent sea to change its course, to suck itself free from primeval beds, the whirls and savage gouts of fire spread and ran like wind and rain and stark lightning over the sea sands, down empty river deltas, shadowing and screaming, whistling and whining, sputtering and coalescing toward the rocket, which, extinguished, lay like a clean metal torch in the farthest hollow, as if a great charred cauldron of sparkling lava had been overturned. The boiling people and snapping animals churned down the dry fathoms. Kill them, screamed Poe, running. The rocket men leaped out of their ship, guns ready. They stalked about, sniffing the air like hounds. They saw nothing. They relaxed. The captain stepped forth last. He gave sharp command. Its woods was gathered, kindled, and a fire leapt up in an instant. The captain beckoned his men into half a circle about him. A new world, he said, forcing himself to speak deliberately, though he glanced nervously now and again over his shoulder at the empty sea. The old world left behind, a new start. What more symbolic than that we here dedicate ourselves all the more firmly to science and progress? He nodded crisply to his lieutenant. The books. Firelight limed the faded gilt tiles. The willows, the outsider, behold the dreamer, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the land of Oz, Pellucidar, the land that time forgot, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and the monstrous names of Machen and Edgar Allan Poe, and Cabell and Dunsany, and Blackwood and Lewis Carroll, the names, the old names, the evil names, a new world. With a gesture we burned the last of the old. The captain ripped pages from the books, leaf by seared leaf. He fed them into the fire. A scream. Leaping back, the men stared beyond the firelight at the edges of the encroaching and uninhabited sea. Another scream, a high and wailing thing like the death of a dragon, a thrashing of a bronzed whale, left gasping with the waters of the Leviathan's sea, drain down the shingles and evaporate. It was a sound of air rushing in to fill a vacuum, where a moment before there had been something. The captain neatly disposed of the last book by putting it into the fire. The air stopped quivering. Silence. The rocket men leaned and listened. Captain, did you hear it? No. Like a wave, sir. On the sea bottom. I thought I saw something. Over there, a black wave. Big, running at us. You are mistaken. There, sir. What? See it there, the city way over. That green city near the lake. It's splitting in half. It's falling. The men squinted and shuffled forward. Smith stood trembling among them. He put his hand to his head as if to find a thought there. I remember. Yes, now I do. A long time back, when I was a child, a book I read. A story. Oz, I think it was. Yes, Oz, the Emerald City of Oz. Oz? Never heard of it. Yes, Oz, that's what it was. I saw it just now, like in the story. I saw it fall. Smith! Yes, sir. Report for psychoanalyst tomorrow. Yes, sir. A brisk salute. Be careful. Then men tiptoed, guns alert, beyond the ship's aseptic light to gaze at the long sea and the low hills. Why, whispered Smith, disappointed, there's no one here at all, is there? No one here at all. The wind blew sand over his shoes, whining. No particular night or morning. He had smoked a packet of cigarettes in 2 hours. How far out in space are we? 1 billion miles. 1 billion miles from where? Said Hitchcock. It all depends, said Clemens, not smoking at all. 1 billion miles from home, you might say. Then say it. Home, Earth, New York, Chicago, wherever you were from. I don't remember, said Hitchcock. I don't even believe there is an Earth now, do you? Yes, said Clemens. I dreamed about it this morning. There is no morning in space. During the night, then. It's always night, said Hitchcock quietly. Which night do you mean? Shut up, said Clemens irritably. Let me finish. Hitchcock lit another cigarette. His hand did not shake, but it looked as if inside the sunburned flesh it might be trembling all to itself, a small tremor in each hand, and a large invisible tremor in his body. The two men sat on the observation corridor floor, looking out at the stars. Clemens' eyes flashed, but Hitchcock's eyes focused on nothing. They were blank and puzzled. I woke up at 0500 hours myself, said Hitchcock, as if he were talking to his right hand. And I heard myself screaming, where am I? Where am I? And the answer was nowhere. And I said, where have I been? I said, Earth. What's Earth? I wondered. Where I was born, I said. But it was nothing worse than nothing. I don't believe in anything, and I can't see or hear or touch. I can't see Earth, so why should I believe in it? It's safer this way not to believe. There's Earth, Clemens pointed, smiling. That point of light there. That's not Earth, that's our sun. You can't see Earth from here. I can see it. I have a good memory. It's not the same, you fool, said Hitchcock suddenly. There was a touch of anger in his voice. I mean, see it. I've always been that way. When I'm in Boston, New York is dead. When I'm in New York, Boston is dead. When I don't see a man for a day, he's dead. When he comes walking down the street, my God, it's a resurrection. I do a dance almost. I'm so glad to see him. I'm used to, anyway. I don't dance anymore. I just look, and when the man walks off, he's dead again. Clemens laughed. It's simply that your mind works on a primitive level. You can't hold on to things. You've got no imagination, Hitchcock, old man. You've got to learn to hold on. Why should I hold on to things I can't use, said Hitchcock, his eyes wide, still staring into space. I'm practical. If Earth isn't here for me to walk on, you want me to walk on a memory? That hurts. Memories, as my father once said, are porcupines. To heck with them. Stay away from them. They make you unhappy. They ruin your work. They make you cry. I'm walking on Earth right now, said Clemens, squinting to himself, blowing smoke. You're kicking porcupines. Later in the day, you won't be able to eat lunch. And you'll wonder why, said Hitchcock in a dead voice, and it'll be because you've got a footful of quills aching in you. To heck with it. If I can't drink it, pinch it, punch it, or lie on it, then I say drop it in the sun. I'm dead to Earth. It's dead to me. There's no one in New York weeping for me tonight. Shove New York. There isn't any season here. Winter and summer are gone. So is spring and autumn. There isn't any particular night or morning. It's space and space. The only thing right now is you and me in this rocket ship. And the only thing I'm positive of is me. That's all of it. Clemens ignored this. I'm putting a dime in the phone slot right now, he said, pantomiming it with a slow smile, and calling my girl in Evanston. Hello, Barbara. The rocket sailed on through space. The lunch bell rang at 13:05 hours. The men ran by on soft rubber sneakers and sat on the cushioned tables. Clemens wasn't hungry. See, what did I tell you, said Hitchcock. You and your darned porcupines. Leave them alone, like I told you. Look at me, shoveling away food. He said this with a mechanical, slow, and unhumorous voice. Watch me. He put a big piece of pie in his mouth and felt it with his tongue. He looked at the pie on his plate to see if the texture. He moved it with his fork. He felt the fork handle. He mashed the lemon filling and watched it jet up between the tines. Then he touched a bottle of milk all over and poured himself half a quart into a glass, listening to it. He looked at the milk as if to make it whiter. He drank the milk so swiftly that he couldn't have tasted it. He had eaten his entire lunch in a few minutes, cramming it in feverishly, and now he looked around for more, but it was gone. He gazed out the window and the rocket blankly. Those aren't real either, he said. What? Asked Clemens. The stars. Who's ever touched one? I can see them, sure. But what's the use of seeing a thing that's 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 miles away? Anything that far off isn't worth bothering with. Why did you come on this trip? Asked Clemens suddenly. Hitchcock peered into his amazingly empty milk glass and clenched it tight, then relaxed his hand and clenched it again. I don't know. He ran his tongue on the glass rim. I just had to, is all. How do you know why you're going to do anything in this life? You like the idea of space travel, going places? I don't know. Yes, no, it wasn't going places, it was being between. Hitchcock for the first time tried to focus his eyes upon something, but it was so nebulous and far off that his eyes couldn't make the adjustment. Though he worked his face and hands, mostly it was space, so much space. I liked the idea of nothing on top, nothing on the bottom, and a lot of nothing in between. And me in the middle of the nothing. I never heard it put it that way before. I just put it that way. I hope you listened. Hitchcock took out his cigarettes and lit up and began to suck and blow the smoke again and again. Clemens said, What sort of childhood did you have, Hitchcock? I was never young. Whoever I was then is dead. That's more of your quills. I don't want to hide, fool, thanks. I've always figured it that you die each day, and each day is a box, you see, all numbered and neat, but you never go back and lift the lids, because you've died a couple of thousand times in your life, and that's a lot of corpses, each dead a different way, each with a worse expression. Each of those days is a different you, somebody you don't know or understand or want to understand. You're cutting yourself off in that way. Why should I have anything to do with that younger Hitchcock? He was a fool. And he was yanked around and taken advantage of and used. His father was no good, and he was glad when his mother died, because she was the same. Should I go back and see his face on that day and gloat over it? He was a fool. We're all fools, said Clemens, all the time. It's just we're a different kind each day. We think, I'm not a fool today, I've learned my lesson. I was a fool yesterday, but not this morning. Then tomorrow we find out that yes, we were a fool today too. I think the only way we can grow and get on in this world is to accept the fact that we are not perfect and live accordingly. I don't want to remember imperfect things, said Hitchcock. I can't shake hands with that younger Hitchcock, can I? Where is he? Can you find him for me? He's dead, so to heck with him. I won't shape what I do tomorrow by some lousy thing I did yesterday. You've got it wrong. Let me have it, then. Hitchcock sat, finished with his meal, looking out at the port. The other men glanced at him. Do meteors exist? Asked Hitchcock. You know darn well they do. In our radar machines, yes, as streaks of light in space. No, I don't believe in anything that doesn't exist and act in my presence. Sometimes he nodded at the men finishing their food. Sometimes I don't believe in anyone or anything but me. He sat up. Is there an upstairs to the ship? Yes. I've got to see it immediately. Don't get excited. You wait here. I'll be right back. Hitchcock walked out swiftly. The other men sat nibbling their food slowly. A moment passed. One of the men raised his head. How long's this been going on? I mean, Hitchcock. Just today. He acted funny the other day, too. Yes, but it's worse today. Has anyone told the psychiatrist? We thought he'd come out of it. Everyone has a little touch of space the first time out. I've had it. You get wildly philosophical, then frightened, you break into a sweat, then you doubt your parentage, you don't believe in Earth. You get drunk, wake up with a hangover, that's it. But Hitchcock don't get drunk, said someone. I wish he would. How'd he ever get past the examining board? How'd we all get past? They need men. Space scares the H out of most people, so the board lets a lot of borderlines through. That man isn't a borderline, said someone. He's a fall off a cliff and no bottom to hit. They waited for 5 minutes. Hitchcock didn't come back. Clemens finally got up and went out and climbed the circular stair to the flight deck above. Hitchcock was there, touching the wall tenderly. It's here, he said. Of course it is. I was afraid it might not be. Hitchcock peered at Clemens. And you're alive. I have been for a long time. No, said Hitchcock. Now, just now. This instant, while you're here with me, you're alive. A moment ago, you weren't anything. I was to me, said the other. That's not important. You weren't here with me, said Hitchcock. Only that's important. Is the crew down below? Yes. Can you prove it? Look, Hitchcock, you better see Dr. Edwards. I think you need a little servicing. No, I'm all right. Who's the doctor, anyway? Can you prove he's on the ship? I can. All I have to do is call him. No, I mean standing here in this instant. You can't prove he's here, can you? Not without moving, I can't. You see, you have no mental evidence. That's what I want. A mental evidence I can feel. I don't want physical evidence, proof you have to go out and drag in. I want evidence that you can carry in your mind and always touch and smell and feel, but there's no way to do that. In order to believe in a thing, you've got to carry it with you. You can't carry the earth or a man in your pocket. I want a way to do that. Carry things with me always so I can believe in them. How clumsy to have to go to all that trouble of going out and bringing in something terribly physical to prove something. I hate physical things because they can be left behind and become impossible to believe in them. Those are the rules of the game. I want to change them. Wouldn't it be fine if we could prove things with our mind and know for certain that things are always in their place? I'd like to know what a place is like when I'm not there. I'd like to be sure. That's not possible. You know, said Hitchcock, I first got the idea of coming out into space about 5 years ago, about the time I lost my job. Did you know how I wanted to be a writer? Oh yes, one of those men who always talk about writing but rarely write. And too much temper, so I lost my good job and left the editorial business and couldn't get another job and went on downhill. Then my wife died. You see, nothing stays where you put it. You can't trust material things. I had to put my boy in an aunt's trust. And things got worse. Then one day, I had a story published with my name on it, but it wasn't me. I don't get you. Hitchcock's face was pale and sweating. I can only say that I looked at the page with my name under the title, by Joseph Hitchcock, but it was some other man. There was no way to really prove that that man was me. The story was familiar. I knew I had written it, but the name on the paper was still not me. It was a symbol, a name. It was alien. And then I realized that even if I did become successful at writing, it would never mean a thing to me because I couldn't identify myself with that name. It would be soot and ashes, so I didn't write anymore. It was never sure anyway that the stories I had in my desk a few days later were mine. Though I remember typing them, there was always that gap of proof, that gap between doing and having done. What is done is dead and is not proof, for it is not an action. Only actions are important, and pieces of paper were remains of action done and over and now unseen. The proof of doing was over and done. Nothing but memory remained, and I didn't trust my memory. Could I actually prove I'd written these stories? No. Can any author? I mean proof. I mean action is proof. No, not really. Not unless someone sits in the room while you type, and then maybe you're doing it from memory, and once the thing is accomplished, there is no proof, only memory. So then I began to find gaps between everything. I doubted I was married, or had a child, or ever had a job in my life. I doubted that I had been born in Illinois, and had a drunken father and a swinish mother. I couldn't prove anything. Oh yes, people could say, you are thus and so and such, and that was nothing. You should get your mind off stuff like that, said Clemens. I can't, all the gaps and spaces, and that's how I got to thinking about all the stars. I thought how I liked to be in a rocket ship in space and nothing, going on into nothing, with just a thin something, a thin eggshell of metal holding me, going on away from all the somethings with gaps in them that couldn't prove themselves. I knew then that the only happiness for me was space. When I get to Aldebaran, too, I'll sign up to return on the 5-year journey to Earth, and so go back and forth like a shuttlecock all the rest of my life. Have you talked about this to the psychiatrist? So he could try to mortar up the gaps for me, fill in the gulfs with noise and warm water and words and hands touching me, and all that? No thanks. Hitchcock stopped. I'm getting worse, aren't I? I thought so. This morning when I woke up I thought, I'm getting worse, or is it better? He paused again and cocked an eye at Clemens. Are you there? Are you really there? Go on, prove it. Clemens slapped him on the arm hard. Yes, said Hitchcock, rubbing his arm, looking at it very thoroughly, wonderingly, massaging it. You were there, for a brief fraction of an instant, but I wonder if you are now. See you later, said Clemens. He was on his way to find a doctor. He walked away. A bell rang. 2 bells. 3 bells rang. The ship rocked as if a hand had slapped it. There was a sucking sound, the sound of a vacuum cleaner turned on. Clemens heard the screams and felt the air thin. The air hissed away about his ears. Suddenly there was something in his nose or lungs. Suddenly there was nothing in his nose or lungs. He stumbled and then the hissing stopped. He heard someone cry, "A meteor!" Another said, "It's patched!" And this was true. The ship's emergency spider, running over the outside of the hull, had slapped a hot patch on the hull in the metal and welded it tight. Someone was talking and then beginning to shout at a distance. Clemens ran along the corridor through the freshening, thickening air. As he turned into the bulkhead, he saw the hole in the steel wall, freshly sealed. He saw the meteor fragments lying about the room like bits of a toy. He saw the captain and the members of the crew and a man lying on the floor. It was Hitchcock. His eyes were closed and he was crying. "It tried to kill me," he said over and over. "It tried to kill me." They got him on his feet. "It can't do that," said Hitchcock. "That's not how it should be. Things like that can't happen, can they? It came in after me. Why did it do that?" All right, Hitchcock," said the captain. The doctor was bandaging a small cut on Hitchcock's arm. Hitchcock looked up, his face pale, and saw Clemens there looking at him. "It tried to kill me," he said. "I know," said Clemens. 17 hours passed. The ship moved on in space. Clemens stepped through a bulkhead and waited. The psychiatrist and the captain were there. Hitchcock sat on the floor with his legs drawn up on his chest, arms wrapped tight about them. "Hitchcock," said the captain. No answer. "Hitchcock, listen to me," said the psychiatrist. They turned to Clemens. "You're his friend?" "Yes." "Do you want to help us?" "If I can." "It was that darned meteor," said the captain. "This might not have happened if it hadn't been for that." "It would have come anyway, sooner or later," said the doctor to Clemens. "You might talk to him." Clemens walked quietly over and crouched by Hitchcock and began to shake his arm gently, calling in a low voice, "Hey there, Hitchcock." No reply. "Hey, it's me, Clemens," said Clemens. "Look, I'm here." He gave the arm a little slap. He massaged the rigid neck gently in the back of the bent-down head. He glanced at the psychiatrist, who sighed very softly. The captain shrugged. "Shock treatment, doctor?" The psychiatrist nodded. "We'll start within the hour." Yes, thought Clemens, shock treatment. Play a dozen jazz records for him. Wave a bottle of fresh green chlorophyll and dandelions under his nose. Put grass under his feet. Squirt Chanel on the air. Cut his hair. Clip his fingernails. Bring him a woman. Shout, bang, and crash at him. Fry him with electricity. Fill the gap in the gulf. But where's your proof? You can't keep proving to him forever. You can't entertain a baby with rattles and sirens all night, every night for the next 30 years. Sometime you've got to stop. When you do that, he's lost again. That is, if he pays attention to you at all. "Hitchcock!" he cried as loud as he could, almost frantically, as if he himself was falling over a cliff. "It's me, your pal. Hey!" Clemens turned and walked away, out of the silent room. 12 hours later, another alarm bell rang. After all of the running had died down, the captain explained Hitchcock snapped out of it for a minute or so. He was alone. He climbed into a spacesuit. He opened an airlock. Then he walked out into space, alone. Clemens blinked through the immense glass port, where there was a blur of stars and distant blackness. "He's out there now?" "Yes, 1,000,000 miles behind us. We'd never find him. First time I knew he was outside the ship was when his helmet radio came in on our control room beam. I heard him talking to himself." "What did he say?" "Something like, 'No more spaceship now. Never was any. No people. No people in all the universe. Never were any. No plants, no stars,' that's what he said. And then he said something about his hands and feet and legs. 'No hands,' he said. 'I haven't any hands anymore. Never had any. No feet. Never had any. Can't prove it. No body. Never had any. No lips, no face, no head, nothing. Only space. Only space. Only the gap.'" The men turned quietly to look from the glass port out into the remote and cold stars. Space, thought Clemens. The space that Hitchcock loved so well. Space with nothing on top, nothing on the bottom, a lot of empty nothings between, and Hitchcock falling in the middle of the nothing, on his way to no particular night and no particular morning. The Fox in the Forest. There were fireworks the very first night, things that you should be afraid of perhaps, for they might remind you of other more horrible things, but these were beautiful, rockets that ascended into the ancient soft air of Mexico and shook the stars apart in blue and white fragments. Everything was good and sweet, the air that blended of the dead and the living, of the rains and the dusts of the incense from the church, and the brass smell of the tubas on the bandstand which pulsed out rhythms of La Paloma. The church doors were thrown wide, and it seemed as if a giant yellow constellation had fallen from the October sky and lay breathing fire upon the church walls. 1,000,000 candles sent their color and fumes about. Newer and better fireworks scurried like tightrope walking comets across the cool tiled square, banged against adobe cafe walls, and rushed on hot wires to bash the high church tower, in which boys' naked feet alone could be seen kicking and re-kicking, clanging and tilting and retilting the monster bells into monstrous music. A flaming bull blundered about the plaza, chasing and laughing men and screaming children. "The year is 1938, said William Travis, standing by his wife on the edge of the yelling crowd, smiling. "A good year." The bull rushed upon them. Ducking, the couple ran, with fireballs pelting them, past the music and riot, the church, the band, under the stars, clutching each other, laughing. The bull passed, carried lightly on the shoulders of a charging Mexican, a framework of bamboo and sulphurous gunpowder. "I've never enjoyed myself so much in my life." Susan Travis had stopped for her breath. "It's amazing," said William. "It will go on, won't it? All night. No, I mean our trip. He frowned and patted his breast pocket. "I've enough traveler's checks for a lifetime. Enjoy yourself. Forget it. They'll never find us. Never, never." Now someone was setting off giant crackers, hurling them from the great bell-tolling tower of the church in a sputter of smoke, while the crowd below fell back under the threat, and their crackers exploded in wonderful concussions among their dancing feet and flailing bodies. A wondrous smell of frying tortillas hung all about, and the cafe's men sat at tables looking out, mugs of beer in their brown hands. The bull was dead, the fire was out in the bamboo tubes, and he was expended. The laborer lifted the framework from his shoulders. Little boys clustered to touch the magnificent papier-mâché head, the real horns. "Let's examine the bull," said William. As they walked past the cafe entrance, Susan saw the man looking out at them, a white man with a salt white suit, with a blue tie and blue shirt and a thin sunburned face. His hair was blonde and straight, and his eyes were blue, and he watched them as they walked. She would never have noticed him if it had not been for the bottles at his immaculate elbow, a fat bottle of creme de menthe, a clear bottle of vermouth, a flagon of cognac, and 7 other bottles of assorted liquors, and at his fingertips 10 small half-filled glasses from which, without taking his eyes off the street, he sipped, occasionally squinting, pressing his thin mouth shut upon the savor. In his free hand, a thin Havana cigar smoked, and on a chair stood 20 cartons of Turkish cigarettes, 6 boxes of cigars, and some packaged colognes. "Bill," whispered Susan. "Take it easy," he said. "He's nobody. I saw him at the plaza this morning." "Don't look back. Keep walking. Examine the papier-mâché bull here. That's it. Ask questions. Do you think he's from the searchers? They couldn't follow us. They might. What a nice bull," said William to the man who owned it. "He couldn't have followed us back through 200 years, could he? Watch yourself, for God's sake," said William. She swayed. He crushed her elbow tightly, steering her away. "Don't faint," he smiled to make it look good. "You'll be all right. Let's go right in that cafe, drink in front of him, so if he is what he thinks he is, he won't suspect." "No, I couldn't. We've got to. Come on now." And so I said to David, "That's ridiculous." This last in a loud voice as they went up the cafe steps. "We are here," thought Susan. "Who are we? Where are we going? What do we fear?" "Start at the beginning," she told herself, holding on to her sanity as she felt the adobe floor underfoot. "My name is Anne Kristen. My husband's name is Roger. We were born in the year 2155 A.D., and we lived in a world that was evil, a world that was like a great black ship pulling away from the shore of sanity and civilization, roaring its black horn in the night, taking 2 billion people with it, whether they wanted to go or not, to death, to fall over the edge of the earth and the sea to radioactive flame and madness." They walked into the cafe. The man was staring at them. A phone rang. The phone startled Susan. She remembered a phone ringing 200 years in the future, on that blue April morning in 2155, and herself answering it. "Anne, this is Renee. Have you heard, about Travel in Time Incorporated? Trips to Rome in 21 BC, trips to Napoleon's Waterloo, anytime, any place." "Renee, you're joking." "No, Clinton Smith left this morning for Philadelphia in 1776. Travel in Time Inc. arranges everything. Costs money, but I think to actually see the burning in Rome. Kubla Khan, Moses in the Red Sea. You probably got an ad in your tube mail now." She had opened the suction mail tube, and there was the metal foil advertisement. "Rome and the bourgeois. The Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk. Travel in Time Inc. can costume you, put you in a crowd during the assassination of Lincoln or Caesar. We guarantee to teach you any language you need to move freely in any civilization, any year, without friction. Latin, Greek, ancient American, colloquial. Take your vacation in time as well as place." Renee's voice was buzzing on the phone. "Tom and I leave for 1492 tomorrow. They're arranging for Tom to sail with Columbus. Isn't it amazing?" "Yes," murmured Anne, stunned. "What does the government say about this time machine company?" "Oh, the police have an eye on it, afraid people might evade the draft, run off and hide in the past. Everyone has to leave a security bond behind, his house and belongings, to guarantee return. After all, the war's on." "Yes, the war," murmured Anne, "the war." Standing there, holding the phone, she had a thought. "Here is the chance my husband and I have talked and prayed over for so many years. We don't like this world of 2155. We want to run away from this work at the bomb factory. I from my position with disease culture units. Perhaps there is a chance for us to escape, to run for centuries into a wild country of years where they will never find and bring us back to burn our books, censor our thoughts, scald our minds with fear, march us, scream at us with radios. They were in Mexico in the year 1938. She looked at the stained cafe wall. Good workers for the future state were allowed vacations into the past to escape fatigue, and so she and her husband had moved back into 1938, a room in New York City, and enjoyed the theaters and the Statue of Liberty, which still stood green in the harbor. And on the third day they had changed their clothes, their names, and had flown off to hide in Mexico. "It must be him," whispered Susan, looking at the stranger seated at the table. "Those cigarettes, the cigars, the liquor, they gave them away. Remember our first night in the past? A month ago, their first night in New York before their flight, drinking all the strange drinks, savoring and buying odd foods, perfumes, cigarettes, and 10 dozen rare brands, for they were rare in the future, where war was everything. So they had made fools of themselves, rushing in and out of stores, salons, tobacconists, going up to their room to get wonderfully ill. And now here was a stranger doing likewise, doing a thing that only a man from the future would do, who had been starved for liquors and cigarettes for many years." Susan Williams sat and ordered a drink. The stranger was examining their clothes, their hair, their jewelry, the way they looked, walked, and sat. "Sit easily," said William under his breath. "Look as if you've worn this clothing style all your life." "We should never have tried to escape." "My God," said William, "he's coming over. Let me do the talking." The stranger bowed before them. There was the faintest tap of heels knocking together. Susan stiffened. That military sound, unmistakable as that certain ugly rap on your door at midnight. "Mr. Roger Criston," said the stranger, "you did not pull up your pant legs when you sat down." William froze. He looked at his hands lying on either leg. Innocently, Susan's heart was beating swiftly. "You've got the wrong person," said William quickly. "My name's not Chrysler." "Criston," corrected the stranger. "I'm William Travis," said William, "and I don't see what my pant legs have to do with you." "Sorry," the stranger pulled up a chair. "Let us say I thought I knew you because you did not pull your trousers up. Everyone does. If they don't, the trousers bag quickly. I'm a long way from home, Mr. Travis, and in need of company. My name is Sims. Mr. Sims, we appreciate your loneliness, but we're tired. We're leaving for Acapulco tomorrow. A charming spot. I was just there looking for some friends of mine. They are somewhere. I shall find them yet. Oh, is the lady a bit sick? Good night, Mr. Sims." They started out the door, William holding Susan's arm firmly. They did not look back when Mr. Sims called, "Oh, just one other thing." He paused and then slowly spoke the words, 2155 A.D. Susan shut her eyes and felt the earth falter under her. She kept going into the fiery plaza, seeing nothing. They locked the door of the hotel room, and then she was crying and they were standing in the dark and the room tilted under them. Far away, firecrackers exploded and there was laughter in the plaza. "What a darned loud nerve," said William. "Him sitting there, looking us up and down like animals, smoking his darned cigarettes, drinking his drinks. I should have killed him then." His voice was nearly hysterical. "He even had the nerve to use his real name to us, the chief and the searchers. And the thing about my pant legs, my God, I should have pulled them up when I sat. It's an automatic gesture of this day and age. When I didn't do it, it set me off from the others. It made him think. Here's a man who never wore pants, a man used to breech uniforms and future styles. I could kill myself for giving us away. No, it was my walk, those high heels, that did it. Our haircuts, so new, so fresh, everything about us odd and uneasy." He turned on the light. "He's still testing us. He's not positive of us, not completely. We can't run out on him, then. We can't make him certain. We'll go to Acapulco leisurely. Maybe he is sure of us, but is just playing. I wouldn't put it past him. He's got all the time in the world. He can dally here if he wants and bring us back to the future 60 seconds after we left it. He might keep us wondering for days, laughing at us." Susanna sat on the bed, wiping the tears from her face, smelling the old smell of charcoal and incense. "They won't make a scene, will they? They won't dare. They'll have to get us alone to put us in that time machine and send us back." "There's a solution, then," she said. "We'll never be alone. We'll always be in crowds. We'll make 1,000,000 friends, visit markets, sleep in the official palaces in each town, pay the chief of police to guard us until we find a way to kill Sims and escape, disguise ourselves in new clothes, perhaps as Mexicans." Footsteps sounded outside their locked door. They turned out the light and undressed in silence. The footsteps went away. A door closed. Susan stood by the window looking down at the plaza in darkness. "So that building there is a church?" "Yes. I've often wondered what a church looked like. It's been so long since anyone saw one. Can we visit it tomorrow?" "Of course. Come to bed." They lay in the dark room. Half an hour later their phone rang. She lifted the receiver. "Hello? The rabbits may hide in the forest," said a voice, "but a fox can always find them." She replaced the receiver and lay back straight and cold in the bed. Outside in the year 1938, a man played 3 tunes upon his guitar, one following another. During the night she put her hand out and almost touched the year 2155. She felt her fingers slide over a cool space of time, as over a corrugated surface, and she heard the insistent thump of marching feet, a million bands playing a million military tunes, and she saw the 50,000 rows of disease cultures and their aseptic glass tubes, her hand reaching out to them at her work in that huge factory in the future. The tubes of leprosy, bubonic, typhoid, tuberculosis, and then the great explosion. She saw her hand burned to a wrinkled plum, felt it recoil from a concussion so immense that the world was lifted and let fall, and all the buildings broken, people hemorrhaged and lay silent. Great volcanoes, machines, winds, avalanches slid down to silence, and she awoke, sobbing in the bed, in Mexico, many years away. In the early morning, drugged with the single hour's sleep they had finally been able to obtain, they awoke to the sound of loud automobiles in the street. Susan peered down from the iron balcony at a small crowd of 8 people, only now emerging, chattering, yelling from trucks and cars with red lettering on them. A crowd of Mexicans had followed the trucks. "¿Qué pasa?" Susan called to a little boy. The boy replied. Susan turned back to her husband. "An American motion picture company here on location. Sounds interesting." William was in the shower. "Let's watch them. I don't think we better leave today. We'll try to lull Sims. Watch the films being made. They say the primitive filmmaking was something. Get our minds off ourselves." Ourselves, thought Susan. For a moment in the bright sun she had forgotten that somewhere in the hotel waiting was a man smoking 1,000 cigarettes, it seemed. She saw the 8 loud, happy Americans below and wanted to call to them, "Save me, hide me, help me, color my hair, my eyes, clothe me in strange clothes. I need your help. I'm from the year 2155. But the words stayed in her throat. The functionaries of Travel in Time, Inc. were not foolish. "In your brain before you left on your trip, they placed a psychological block. You could tell no one your true time or birthplace, nor could you reveal any of the future to those in the past. The past and the future must be protected from each other. Only with this psychological block were people allowed to travel unguarded through the ages. The future must be protected from any change brought about by her people traveling in the past. Even if she wanted to with all her heart, she could not tell any of those happy people below in the plaza who she was, or what her predicament had become. "What about breakfast?" said William. Breakfast was being served in an immense dining room, ham and eggs for everyone. The place was full of tourists. The film people entered, all 8 of them, 6 men and 2 women, giggling, shoving chairs about, and Susan sat near them, feeling the warmth and protection they offered. Even when Mr. Sims came down the lobby stairs, smoking his Turkish cigarette with great intensity, he nodded at them from a distance, and Susan nodded back, smiling, because he couldn't do anything to them here, in front of 8 film people and 20 other tourists. "Those actors," said William. "Perhaps I could hire 2 of them, say it was a joke, dress them in our clothes, have them drive off in our car, and when Sims is in such a spot where he can't see their faces, if 2 people pretending to be us could lure him out for a few hours, we might make it to Mexico City. It'd take him years to find us there." "Hey!" A fat man with liquor on his breath leaned on their table. "American tourists," he cried. "I'm so sick of seeing Mexicans I could kiss you." He shook their hands. "Come on, eat with us. Misery loves company. I'm Misery, this is Miss Gloom, and Mr. and Miss... Do we hate Mexico? We all hate it, but we're here from some preliminary shots for our darn film. The rest of the crew arrives tomorrow. My name's Joe Melton. I'm a director. And if this aren't a hell of a country. Funerals in the streets. People dying. Come on, move over. Join the party. Cheer us up." Susan and William were both laughing. "Am I funny?" Mr. Melton asked the immediate world. "Wonderful." Susan moved over. Mr. Sims was glaring across the dining room at them. She made a face at him. Mr. Sims advanced among the tables. "Mr. and Miss Travis," he called. "I thought we were breakfasting together. Alone." "Sorry," said William. "Sit down, pal," said Mr. Melton. "Any friend of theirs is a pal of mine." Mr. Sims sat. The film people talked loudly, and while they talked, Mr. Sims said quietly, "I hope you slept well. Did you?" "I'm not used to spring mattresses," replied Mr. Sims wryly, "but there are compensations. I stayed out half the night trying new cigarettes and foods. Odd, fascinating. A whole new spectrum of sensation, these ancient vices." "We don't know what you're talking about," said Susan. "Always for the play acting," Sims laughed. "It's no use, nor is the stratagem of crowds. I'll get you alone soon enough. I'm immensely patient." "Say," Mr. Melton broke in, his face flushed, "is this guy giving you any trouble? It's all right. Say the word and I'll give him the bum's rush. Melton turned back to yell at his associates, and the laughter. Mr. Sims went on. Let us come to the point. It took me a month of tracing you through towns and cities to find you, and all of yesterday to be sure of you. If you come with me quietly, I might be able to get you off with no punishment. If you agree to go back to work on the hydrogen plus bomb. Science this guy talks at breakfast, observed Mr. Melton, half listening. Sims went on imperturbably. Think it over. You can't escape. If you kill me, others will follow you. We don't know what you're talking about. Stop it, cried Sims irritably. Use your intelligence. You know we can't let you get away with this escape. Other people in the year 2155 might get the same idea and do what you've done. We need people to fight your wars, said William at last. Bill! It's all right, Susan. We'll talk on his terms now. We can't escape. Excellent, said Sims. Really, you've both been incredibly romantic, running away from your responsibilities, running away from horror. Nonsense, only a war. What are you guys talking about? asked Mr. Melton. Susan wanted to tell him, but you could only speak in generalities. The psychological block in your mind allowed that. Generalities such as Sims and William were now discussing. Only the war, said William, half the world dead of leprosy bombs. Nevertheless, Sims pointed out, the inhabitants of the future resent you two hiding on a tropical isle, as it were, while a drop off the cliff into hell. Death loves death, not life. Dying people love to know that others die with them. It is a comfort to learn that you are not alone in the kiln, in the grave. I am the guardian of their collective resentment against you two. Look at the guardian of resentment, said Mr. Melton to his companions. The longer you keep me waiting, the harder it will go for you. We need you on the bomb project, Mr. Travis. Return now or no torture. Later we'll force you to work, and after you finish the bomb, we'll try a number of complicated new devices on you, sir. I have a proposition, said William. I'll come back with you if my wife stays here alive, safe, and away from that war. Mr. Sims considered it. All right, meet me in the plaza in 10 minutes. Pick me up in your car. Drive me to a deserted country spot. I'll have the travel machine pick us up there. Bill! Susan held his arm tightly. Don't argue. He looked over at her. It's settled. To Sims, one thing. Last night you could have gotten in our room and kidnapped us. Why didn't you? Shall we say that I was enjoying myself, replied Mr. Sims, languidly sucking his new cigar. I hate giving up this wonderful atmosphere, this sun, this vacation. I regret leaving behind the wine and the cigarettes. Oh, how I regret it. The plaza, then, in 10 minutes. Your wife will be protected and may stay here as long as she wishes. Say your goodbyes. Mr. Sims arose and walked out. There goes Mr. Big Talk, yelled Mr. Melton at the departing gentleman. He turned and looked at Susan. Hey, someone's crying. Breakfast's no time for people to cry. Now is it? At 9:15, Susan stood on the balcony of their room, gazing down at the plaza. Mr. Sims was seated there, his neat legs crossed on a delicate bronze bench. Biting the tip from a cigar, he lit it tenderly. Susan heard the throb of a motor, and far up the street, out of the garage and down the cobbled hill, slowly came William in his car. The car picked up speed, 30, now 40, now 50 miles an hour, chickens scattered before it. Mr. Sims took off his white Panama hat and mopped his pink forehead, put his hat back on, and then saw the car. It was rushing 60 miles an hour straight on for the plaza. William! Screamed Susan. The car hit the low plaza curb. Thundering, it jumped up, sped across the tiles towards the green bench where Mr. Sims now dropped his cigar, shrieked, flailed his hands, and was hit by the car. His body flew up in the air, and down crazily into the street. On the far side of the plaza, one front wheel broken. The car stopped. People were running. Susan went in and closed the balcony doors. They came down the official palace steps together, arm in arm, their faces pale at 12 noon. Adios, senor, said the mayor behind them. Senora. They stood in the plaza where the crowd was pointing at the blood. Will they want to see you again? Asked Susan. No, we went over and over it. It was an accident. I lost control of the car. I wept for them. God knows I had to get my relief out somewhere. I felt like weeping. I hated to kill him. I never wanted to do anything like that in my life. They won't prosecute you? They talked about it, but no, I talked faster. They believe me. It was an accident. It's over. Where will we go? Mexico City? Uruapan? The car's in the repair shop. It'll be ready at 4 this afternoon. Then we'll get the H out. Will we be followed? Was Sims working alone? I don't know. We'll have a little head start on them, I think. The film people were coming out of the hotel as they approached. Mr. Melton hurried up, scowling. Hey, I heard what happened. Too bad. Everything okay now? Want to get your minds off it? We're doing some preliminary shots up the street. You want to watch? You're welcome. Come on, do good. They went. They stood on the cobbled street while the film camera was being set up. Susan looked at the road leading down and away, and the highway going to Acapulco and the sea, past pyramids and ruins and little adobe towns with yellow walls, blue walls, purple walls, flaming bougainvillea, and she thought, we shall take the roads, travel in clusters and crowds and markets and lobbies, bribe police to sleep near. Keep double locks, but always the crowds, never alone again. Always afraid the next person who passes may be another Sims, never knowing if we've tricked and lost the searchers, and always up ahead in the future they wait for us to be brought back, waiting for their bombs to burn us and disease to rot us, and their police to tell us to roll over, turn around, jump through the hoop, and so we'll keep running through the forest, and we'll never ever stop or sleep well again in our lives. A crowd gathered to watch the film being made, and Susan watched the crowd in the streets. See anyone suspicious? No, what time is it? 3 o'clock. The car should be almost ready. The test film was finished at 3:45. They all walked down to the hotel talking. William paused at the garage. The car will be ready at 6, he said, coming out worried, but no later than that it'll be ready, don't worry. In the hotel lobby they looked around for other men traveling alone, men who resembled Mr. Sims, men with new haircuts and too much cigarette smoke and cologne smell about them. But the lobby was empty. Going up the stairs, Mr. Milton said, well, it's been a long, hard day. Who'd like to put a header on it? You folks? Martini? Beer? Maybe one. The whole crowd pushed into Mr. Milton's room, and the drinking began. What's the time? Said William. Time, thought Susan. If only they had time. All she wanted was to sit in the plaza all of a long, bright day in October, with not a worry or a thought, with the sun on her face and arms, her eyes closed, smiling at the warmth, and nevermore sleep in the Mexican sun, and sleep warmly and easily and slowly and happily for many, many days. Mr. Milton opened the champagne. To a very beautiful lady, lovely enough for films, he said, toasting Susan. I might even give you a test. She laughed. I mean it, said Mr. Milton. You're very nice. I could make you a movie star. And take me to Hollywood? Cried Susan. Get the H out of Mexico, sure. Susan glanced at William, and he lifted an eyebrow and nodded. It would be a change of scene, clothing, locale, name, perhaps. They would be traveling with 8 other people, a good shield against any interference from the future. It sounds wonderful, said Susan. She was feeling the champagne now. The afternoon was slipping by. The party was whirling about her. She felt safe and good and alive and truly happy for the first time in many years. What kind of film would you say my wife would be good for? Asked William, refilling his glass. Milton appraised Susan. The party stopped laughing and listened. Well, I'd like to do a story of suspense, said Milton. A story of a man and a wife like yourselves. Go on. Sort of a war story, maybe, said the director, examining the color of his drink against the sunlight. Susan and William waited. A story about a man and wife who live in a little house on a little street in the year 2155, maybe, said Milton. This is ad lib, understand, but this man and wife are faced with a terrible war. Superplus hydrogen bombs, censorship, death in that year, and here's the gimmick. They escape into the past, followed by a man who they think is evil, but who is only trying to show them what their duty is. William dropped his glass to the floor. Mr. Milton continued, and this couple take refuge with a group of film people whom they learn to trust. Safety in numbers, they say to themselves. Susan felt herself slip down into a chair. Everyone was watching the director. He took a little sip of wine. Oh, that's a fine wine. Well, this man and woman, it seems, don't realize how important they are to the future. The man especially is the keystone to a new bomb metal. So the searchers, let's call them, spare no trouble or expense to find, capture, and take home the man and wife once they get them totally alone in a hotel room where no one can see. Strategy. The searchers work alone or in groups of 8. One trick or another will do it. Don't you think it would make a wonderful film, Susan? Don't you, Bill? He finished his drink. Susan sat with her eyes straight ahead of her. Have a drink, Mr. Milton said. William's gun was out, and he fired 3 times, and one of the men fell, and the others ran forward. Susan screamed. A hand was clamped to her mouth. Now the gun was on the floor, and William was struggling, held. Mr. Milton said, please, standing there where he had stood, blood showing on his fingers. Let's not make matters worse. Someone pounded on the hall door. Let me in. The manager, said Mr. Milton dryly. He jerked his head. Everyone, let's move. Let me in. I'll call the police. Susan and William looked at each other quickly, then at the door. The manager wishes to come in, said Mr. Milton. Quick. A camera was carried forward. From it shot a blue light, which encompassed the room instantly. It widened out, and the people out of the party vanished one by one. Quickly, outside the window, in the instant before she vanished, Susan saw the green land of the purple and yellow, blue, crimson walls and the cobbles flowing down like a river, a man on a burro riding into the warm hills, a boy drinking an orange crush. She could feel the sweet liquid in her throat, a man standing under a cool plaza tree with a guitar, and she could feel her hand upon the strings. Far away, the sea, the blue and tender